Hello, fictional. Welcome to the What If Essay. Today we are gonna see, what if Ginji and Shinji are Rias and Issei's twin sons? Part 1. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. It was cool that evening on the Kuo Academy grounds. Ordinarily it'd be a nice day for an after-hours walk, but not for one male student. His name is Shinji Gremory, one of two children born to Issei and Rias Gremory. His elder twin brother is Ginji Gremory, who bears long flowing crimson hair that's a trademark of the bloodline. Shinji does not have this notable trait in favor of shorter brown hair like his father. Despite this fact, he is notoriously mistaken for Ginji and often attacked. The day's near-death experience, Shinji was on his way home from hanging out with the D&D club when he was confronted by a woman in a black hooded cloak. She didn't even announce herself or say anything, she flat out rushed him and ran her arm through his chest like wet tissue paper. It'd have been instantly fatal if she'd stabbed just a few inches to the left. She removed her arm letting him fall backward coughing up blood. This is what the so-called all-powerful Ginji Gremory has to offer. I have to admit that I'm disappointed. She scoffed looking at her blood-covered arm. Out of nowhere she felt odd, and then her body split in half, revealing Ginji behind her looking oh so very displeased. Ginji is possibly the one person who despises it more than Shinji when people confuse them. With Ginji was a slim and fit female student with silver hair reaching just below her buttocks, wielding a katana at the left side of her hip. Yuri, use a phoenix file on him. I refuse to see mother cry if he were to die, and I wouldn't be able to live with myself if his death were my fault. He ordered, and Yuri hurried to him pulling out a file from her bag as he gasped for air. This particular bottle had a total of 10 phoenix tears inside, meaning that it has x10 the healing power compared to just one, or you can use a teardropper to get 10 uses out of it. Yuri dropped 3 tears onto his wound, making it smoke as if being burned, making Shinji cry out in pain as his injury healed at an accelerated pace. He lost consciousness immediately after forcing Yuri carry him back to the Gremory Manor. Immediately upon entering the front doors a line of maids on the left and a line of butlers on right bowed greeting them. "Can I drop this heavy lard now, master?" Yuri asked. "He'll catch a cold if he sleeps on the floor, and that won't do at all. Mother would be especially cross if she found out as well. Let's put him to bed in his room," Ginji ordered, and up the stairs at the far left end of the foyer they went. They went up to the 3rd floor, where the first 4 children born have rooms along with their own bathrooms and laundry rooms. The 6th door down the left side was Shinji's room. Ginji opened the door and saw 3 sleeping lumps on Shinji's bed. They could only be their triplet little sisters Ami, Yumi, and Kurumi. These Nekomata kittens were born to Kaneko and are currently 4 years old. Ami wears pink pajamas and is the youngest. Yumi wears green pajamas and is the middle sister. Lastly, Kurumi wears blue pajamas and is the oldest. All 3 were curled in cat position, likely waiting for Shinji to come home so they could play with him. Of the Gremory children the triplets were closest with Shinji, but mostly because he spoils them a bit more than the others do. They immediately sprang awake when Ginji moved the covers so Yuri could put Shinji under them. They began sniffing and licking Ginji and Yuri affectionately, their signature greeting. They're soft-spoken like their mother Kaneko, but are far more playful. They inherited a little of her rook strength too, because if they aren't careful they can accidentally barrel over the grown-ups. On numerous occasions they've accidentally run over Asia in their races through the manor's many hallways. It's a good thing they have a habit of running around barefoot. "Can I trust you girls to stand guard over him? He's had a rough day," Ginji asked, and the 3 saluted him. He left the room and the tired kittens curled up on Shinji. In usual formation when they sneak in, Ami lay on his right arm, Yumi lay on his left, and Kurumi lay on his forelegs. The rest of the day went by, and when Shinji awoke it was all like a bad dream. He had his natural reaction to the triplets sleeping on top of him, gather them up and set them aside so he can get up. He made his way to the 1st floor kitchen where Akeno was cooking for Sasori, the youngest of Issei's children at just 2.5 years old. He had black hair like his mother, Akeno, but appearance-wise took after Issei. He was wearing his usual wolf pajamas. "Good morning Shinji. You had us worried when you wouldn't wake up." Even Ginji was starting to break character. Akeno smiled. "How long was I out?" Shinji asked. 3 weeks, give or take," Akeno answered. "That long?" Shinji exclaimed in shock. "Fitting, you've only been unconscious for 2 days. You're such an easy target, Shinji." Akeno giggled. "That's not funny, Aunt Akeno, the student council would have my head if I missed too many days." Shinji sighed, sinking to his knees. "How come you don't call each of us mom? We're a collective family after all. It sort of hurts my feelings," Akeno asked, pouting. "It's so I don't get confused. Us kids share the same dad, but our moms are different, so I refer to the moms that aren't my biological one as my aunts," Shinji explained. "It's a logical solution." Kaneko spoke as she entered the room. You look well rested this morning. Akeno smiled. I didn't have my oldest trying to make me teach her to fight last night. Kaneko nodded. Where is everyone anyway? Shinji asked them. Issei and Rias went to the underworld to discuss Ginji's awakening to the Gremory family's powers, and you being you. Zenobia and Asia took Udo and Jasper shopping to get new clothes for your siblings. Akeno answered. Excuse me for not inheriting the Gremory family's power. I need to get to school or the student council will get on my case again. Let them know I'm okay when they get back. Shinji sighed. You aren't gonna stay home, big brother? Sasori asked. Nah. My grades will drop more if I miss any more days, then the student council will really be riding my ass. Shinji smiled in response. Summer is right around the corner, Sasori. He'll be able to play with you all day every day, just like last year. Akeno smiled. Shinji hurried to the bus stop to catch a ride to the school gates. A lot went through his head on that ride. Once again he'd been confused for his brother when it's common knowledge that their hair sets them apart. Shinji, a girl's voice cried. He opened his eyes to a face full of double D breasts as he got tackled to the ground by a girl student with long flowing golden hair. This is the daughter of Raphael, Aoi Angelus. Ever since they met in 3rd grade she's had a very powerful bond with him since, even though he was a demon he chose to be her friend. I was so worried. You didn't come to school for 2 whole days, and I heard you'd been hurt in a terrible accident. Aoi cried, smothering him with her breasts. Get off me, I can't breathe, you Amazon. Shinji cried, struggling to get free. Oh. Sorry. Aoi giggled, tapping her head with her knuckles as Shinji plugged his nosebleed. Aoi, we've talked about tackling me out of the blue like that, Shinji sighed. Technically it was a cross-body press maneuver, not a tackle. Aoi corrected him. I counted as tackling. I also believe we had an agreement that you wouldn't do that, especially when you have a skirt on. Shinji scolded while gently karate chopping her forehead, making her chuckle guiltily. I had my singlet on underneath, so it's fine, nobody got any panty shots from me. Aoi smiled reassuringly. Not my point. You smothered me in broad daylight. Shinji explained with a stern expression. Oops. Aoi exclaimed while blushing as the class bell rang. We're late. Both exclaimed in horror. The day went by lightning fast to Shinji's surprise. Aoi then had him watch her girls' wrestling team practice. Just as always, Aoi was eager to seek praise from him when she did well. It was almost like a puppy after successfully fetching the ball its master threw. Shinji waited patiently for her to fetch her uniform after practice was over. So why did you have me watch your practice today? Shinji asked. I always do better with the object of my affections watching me. It's like a X10 booster to all stats. It'll be X20 when my husband is watching me perform. Aoi cheered, raising her arms in the air. You know why we'd never be allowed to marry, Aoi? Shinji sighed. Why not? Angels and devils are at peace now. Aoi asked him. That doesn't mean that the marriage conventions, let alone the rules of marriage, are the same. Shinji answered. We could marry here in the human realm. The conventions are simple and easy to obey. Aoi tried to persuade him. Both heaven and hell would object. We're both from prestigious bloodlines on top of it. There'd be way too many variables preventing it from working, including radicals and warmongers. Shinji sighed. I'm not from a prestigious family, Aoi lied, trying to hide it on her face. Daughter of Raphael. On top of wielding the heavenly sword Raditiskra. Shinji brought up, making guilt arrows stab her. Shut up, Aoi told him, starting to well up. Aoi, it isn't that I'm not flattered or interested, it's that there are too many things in the way. I don't mind being friends, but due to the way things are in Devil and Angel society, it just isn't possible. At least not right now. Shinji explained to her as gently as he could. I understand, Aoi sniffled, sprouting her wings to fly off. I've never seen a more absent-minded angel, and it hurts not being able to return her feelings, but it's the truth. Otherwise I'd have been all over her a year ago when she confessed. Shinji thought to himself as he sighed heavily, starting his walk home. In hell, an elder conference was being held to discuss the future of Shinji and Ginji Gremory. In attendance were many bigwig devils, including Issei and Rias. Near the middle of the meeting, Ginji had to be escorted out. He waited for it to end with fury in his eyes. It was 7:15 when Rias and Issei finally came out. Ginji, some cruel things were said in there about Shinji. Rias spoke, trying to console him. TCH, but your actions were unacceptable, I know. I just can't stand it when they say you should excommunicate him to promote strong bloodlines. Who do those geezers think they are? Ginji growled, clenching his fists. Your father and I were equally offended when they suggested it. We both know I would never do that as well. I love both of you equally, and frankly I believe it's good that twins have defining differences. Your crimson hair, for one, makes it quite easy to distinguish you from Shinji. Rias smiled, attempting to calm him down, soothingly stroking his hair. "The fact, Shinji, that doesn't even have the ability to warp," Shinji brought up. "Ginji, you're letting them get under your skin." Rias sighed with a sympathetic smile. "Those old guys don't know Shinji like we do," Issei assured him. "Let's just go home, he's probably awake by now anyway." Ginji scoffed, putting his hands in his pockets. Back in the human world, Shinji was studying for the upcoming exams. His concentration was broken as a foreign object smashed through his window, nearly spooking him out of his skin. When he regained his composure, he saw the object was a rock with a note attached. "What is this, and an I'm?" Shinji questioned as he read it. The contents of the letter spoke of Aoi's feelings. It wasn't like her to do something like this. His expression changed from confused to horrified when he reached the end of the letter. "She wouldn't," Shinji exclaimed, dropping it to run as fast as he could to get his shoes on and take off into the woods. "Aoi, don't you dare. All you'll accomplish is falling from grace. Don't do that to yourself," Shinji thought to himself in a panic. He reached a clearing and narrowly dodged a swing of an aquamarine sword bearing a black and red hilt with a dive roll to the left. Standing there was Aoi, but something was definitely wrong. Her face was flushed and her breathing was somewhat erratic while bearing the mark of psychosis. "Hey Aoi. Are you okay?" Shinji asked her, readying to dodge again at a moment's notice. "I don't have to commit suicide and be reborn to be with you, no, I just have to kill you and make you reincarnate as an angel, we'll be together." Then Aoi giggled, staring intently at him. She snapped. Shinji thought to himself in horror. "Aoi, listen, you and I both know it doesn't work that way and I know it probably breaks your heart," but Shinji tried to reason. "Enough talk. Die for our love, Shinji Gremory." Aoi laughed, charging to swing, but he dodged, causing a tree to get cut in two, falling over. "That's a hell of an edge," Shinji thought in a panic, staring at the stump left behind. "Try as you might, I'll hit you eventually and then we'll be together forever." Aoi laughed, charging to swing more. "More like my blood will be on your hands," Shinji cursed under his breath. "It's gotta be that sword. It's corrupting her mind with bullshit logic. I don't have the strength to get it away from her though, damn it, again with this shit," Shinji thought to himself as he continued dodging. Shinji's movements began to increase in speed as his thoughts became more grim. Again he's helpless to do anything. Again he's against the wall. This time it's someone he knows and cares about too. "I was useless back then when my friend needed me too, damn it, why is it whenever I need to be strong I'm always such a weakling?" Shinji cursed in his head as he shed a tear, causing everything to freeze, turning black and white. "Huh? What just happened?" Shinji asked, looking around him. "You are sick of not being able to help the ones you love. You despise yourself for not inheriting your siblings' innate devil powers. You believe that you are somehow human when everyone else is devil." A grown woman's voice spoke, startling Shinji. "Who are you? Where are you?" Shinji asked, looking around in confusion. "Shall I show you why your powers remain under lock and key? Shall I just give you a taste of what you're truly capable of?" The voice spoke in a tone that was strikingly seductive to Shinji's ears. "What do you mean? Make some sense," Shinji demanded. "You are clearly not human, you're certainly no angel, you don't fit being a devil either, not a fallen angel, what does that leave?" The voice spoke. "I said make sense, damn it," Shinji roared, trying to keep his mind from her seductive words. "Look at your right arm and know the meaning of your pathetic abilities. The real you," the voice roared. All it took was a glance to unnerve him. A white and black gauntlet that was dragonic in nature had attached to his arm. In the back of the hand was a gem that resembled space with a blackness and scattering of white specks within it. The sight of the glove instilled both fear and wonder into his very soul. "This alone should tell you what you are, what we are," the voice spoke, and he gave in to the lust of her words. "Why didn't anyone say anything?" Shinji whimpered, welling up a bit. "The answer is easy. They feared our potential. Now to give you a taste of our power balance breaker." The woman's voice spoke, making the gem glow red. The gauntlet then expanded into full body armor with a dragon motif. Shinji's thoughts all became clouded by extreme emotion. He couldn't think straight at all. He didn't have a clue what his body was doing either. In reality, Shinji was swiftly dodging Aoi's swings. She was visibly frustrated now. She charged holy energy into the weapon and swung, sending an energy blade flying at him. "We will consummate our love," Aoi screamed as the wave made an explosion, kicking up a big dust cloud. Aoi had a grin on her face, but it vanished in seconds. Balance break, Shinji leapt through the cloud, opening the jaws of his helm and bit Aoi's sword in half with ease. She was mortified by the cold, black, lifeless eyes staring at her from the inside of the helmet. "Now, to show you the extent of your power. The power of the Stardust Flame Dragon," the woman's voice roared. Shinji then unleashed a powerful dragon roar, making Aoi cover her ears from having a front row seat to it. When Aoi opened her eyes, Shinji's tail reflected in her eyes seconds before it pierced her gut, exiting her back. Aoi puked a very unhealthy amount of blood as light arrows struck Shinji, making him roar loudly as the arrows bounce off like rubber. Above them were several angels and an archangel with long red hair dressed in seraphic robes and armor wielding a spear. Was all Aoi could get out before losing consciousness. "Aoi. Get away from her, you monster." Raphael roared, signaling the angels to continue firing. Shinji's tail then retracted as he let out another roar, sprouting massive jet black wings that sparkled like space. He firmly planted his feet, folding his wings around himself, and then quickly unfolded them, sending sparkling black spikes skewering some of the angels. "We need backup, this is no ordinary dragon we're fighting," Raphael ordered. "Balance breaker." Issei's voice cried seconds before he flew by the archangel, tackling Shinji, making him roar, kicking him off, backflipping to regain his balance. "What is this thing, Drake? It looks like you if you had a great rack and a new paint job," Issei asked. Afa said she'd snap eventually, so this too was an eventuality. That is Shinji, believe it or not. It seems that the seal office placed on him has finally given in to the weight of his power. Drake answered. Afa said that, Issei exclaimed. Shinji unleashed another roar and began charging a strange kind of space energy within his mouth, forming a sphere. He then unleashed it at Issei, who easily dodged. Shinji used that moment to leap and tackle Issei, throwing rapid punches and kicks, roaring at him more. "Damn it, I can't use Ascalon on him. I don't think I'd ever forgive myself." "There has to be another way," Issei groaned as he kept blocking. "We need to calm him down." Usually he'd calm down on his own, but there's someone keeping that from happening. Given Shinji's current power rating, I'd say they would need to be nearby. Drake instructed. Issei had to force himself to knock Shinji through some trees so he could look around. He had to knock Shinji back a few times to keep looking. "I don't see anyone. Maybe I can use Shinji's anger to our advantage by making him blast the one causing his rage," Issei schemed. Shinji unleashed a roar of pure anger as he recovered again. He literally stabbed his feet into the ground like anchors and began charging up a large sphere of the energy he'd been using. This time he unleashed it as a powerful beam attack. Issei dodged and cunningly made him drag the stream after him, causing untold destruction of the forest. "You're sure this will work? He'll catch us eventually?" Drake asked. "No clue, but we won't know until we try all directions," Issei answered as he made a full circle around. "That takes care of the cardinal directions, which leaves one direction, so now it will be a game of outrunning him," Drake pointed out. "Here goes." Issei spoke, taking a deep breath as he took to the air, making Shinji unleash a new beam, chasing up after him. "It's quickly starting to gain," Drake informed him. "There. I see someone," Issei exclaimed, pointing out a woman wearing a black cloak chanting the contents of a red tome. "His beam is gaining on us, please hurry," Drake urged him. "Almost there," Issei spoke in a cold sweat. "It's nipping our tail, Issei." "Roll. Roll," Drake exclaimed. "Now." Issei cried, suddenly rolling out of the chase, causing his tail to get scorched a bit as the blast strikes the robed woman, making her scream in agony as black electricity sparked all over her body, ripping her clothing up, showing traces of golden hair and her fallen angel wings. "Direct hit," Issei cheered as she fell to the ground with horrendous bloody injuries. She was so focused on maintaining the spell she didn't even notice us coming at her and got fried as a result, but how on earth did she survive that blast? Drake questioned as Issei landed, returning to normal, examining her. "Yeah, he's my son, all right," Issei sighed. "The blast did severely injure her, but it also revealed her unmentionables. He is definitely yours," Drake snickered. "We need to check on him," Issei told him, standing to look towards Shinji. Shinji was frozen in place with his feet firmly implanted into the ground, looking skyward. His armor began cracking slowly and then grew to quickly crack all over. The armor then shattered like glass, revealing Shinji with horribly bloody injuries all over himself, bearing a small version of the gauntlet on his arm. He pulled his feet from the ground with glazed eyes before promptly losing consciousness. "As I thought, an inherited gear," Drake sighed. "The what?" Issei asked. "I'll explain at the manor. Right now we need to treat his wounds." The angels took Aoi away, allowing Issei to take Shinji home. When Shinji regained consciousness, his Nekomata sisters jumped on him, licking his face. He saw in his dressing mirror that he was covered in bandages, which he found odd as Anastasia could heal most injuries. "You three snuck in again? Ow, why am I aching all over?" Shinji questioned. "You tell me." Drake refused to say anything until you awakened. "A full week this time," Ginji sighed, setting up a wheelchair by Shinji's bed. "You're kidding, right? The student council is going to kill me," Shinji groaned. "Sadly, as much as I wish I were, everyone has been worried sick since Dad brought you home covered in injuries. Asia tried to heal you, but had minimal effect. So we bandaged you up the best we can and pray you heal with little scarring," Ginji explained. "Aoi, how's Aoi?" Shinji asked in panicked realization. "In critical condition. They had to take her back to heaven for treatment," Everyone's hoping this doesn't cause tension between heaven and hell, because as Raphael recalls you transformed into white and black dragon armor and stabbed her with your tail. Ginji answered, helping Shinji to sit up. I don't remember much. A voice said something, and the rest is a blur. I can't recall it. Shinji sighed. I need to confirm it for myself. Offa spoke as she entered the room. He's still recovering, Rias told her as she followed into the room. He just woke up actually. Ginji told both of them. Lady Office? Shinji questioned as she climbed onto the bed by him. She took his gauntlet arm, making him grimace in pain. She felt his nerves and then pressed, making him yelp as the gauntlet materialized. She felt over the space gemstone, making a glowing purple sigil appear over it, with several cracks all over the glyph. Office got a saddened expression looking at it. I guess that's sort of good news. Now, my seal is still intact, but barely. There's several cracks in it that's causing some of the Stardust Flame Dragon's power to flow into him. Office explained. The what? Rias asked nervously. Gather everyone, that way everyone will know. Office ordered. Ginji helped Shinji into the wheelchair as the triplets rushed off to alert the household members. It took minutes to get everyone gathered in the living room. Office was front and center with Shinji parked right beside her. Now, first and foremost, what this specific piece of gear is. This is called an inherited gear, meaning that he got it from Issei, a wielder of a boosted gear. Issei's gear boosts his strength by 2 each time, as an inherited or improved version. Shinji's boosts his strength by 4, each time peaking at double what Issei's would. As inherited gears birth more inherited gears, their effects become stronger and stronger, sometimes even gaining secondary effects. Think of it as a snowball effect. Office explained to them. Is that where all of his powers went? Issei asked fervently. An unexpected side effect of my seal was stunting his growth as a devil. So that's my bad. Office chuckled while bowing apologetically. So where did that dragon come from? Zenobia asked. When Issei and Rias consummated, a fragment of Rias' soul took upon the shape of a female dragon to birth a child with Drag. I believe he claimed to have felt the energy of their love, denying what happened. Office answered with a smile. Drag? That true? Issei asked, giving a stare at his arm. I was unaware that was what happened. I believed it to merely be a result of your love-making. Drag nervously answered. So that's why I felt like I could breathe fire for a little while, then I found out I was pregnant with Ginji and Shinji. Rias spoke as she pieced it together. So, why exactly is this Stardust Flame Dragon such a bitch? Shinji asked Office. No social skills due to being sealed up all her life, and when I talked with her last, she claimed that she wanted to be called the Empress of Starlight Dragon. If she wants a grandiose title like that, she's gotta work for it. Office giggled. Do I have a similar gear? Ginji asked her. No, and that strikes me as odd since you're twins. Office answered. What will happen when the seal breaks completely? Asia asked with a concerned look. He'll suffer an overflow from the Stardust Flame Dragon's power entering his body. In even the best case scenario, he'll still die from being unable to handle the power instilled within him. Office answered with a sad look. Isn't there something we can do? There has to be something. Yudo asked. Well, if he had an outlet for his dragon powers, something to regulate its power, keeping it from overwhelming him while in use, something like the God Slayer of legend, then maybe. Office answered. We all know that God Slayer is just an old fairy tale told by devils in the days of the war to give children hope that it would end soon. Rias scoffed. You'll find that it's very real and was used in that war by Sephiroth Satan Gremory 3. All of your family berated him for outrageous claims of bearing the weapon, but he really did have the blade of legend. The war would have ended much sooner if they'd believed him, and the way things are now would be vastly different. Office grinned, seeming to be lecturing almost. Where is it then? Kaneko asked. Don't know. Only a dragon can find it, let alone identify it anyway. As the legend goes, it takes the shape of your soul and only obeys your heart's desires. Office shrugged, making them comically fall over. So, it will always look different to multiple people? Shinji asked, and she booped his nose with her index finger. Gold star. Office smiled warmly. So, what are we supposed to do until then? Twiddle our thumbs until the seal breaks? Issei asked on the edge of frustration. No, use that thick skull of yours, Issei, we're going to use his dragon to find God Slayer. Office giggled. After much debate, it was decided to perform the risky summoning somewhere with lots of space. The seaside cottage that the Gremory family would often go to during summer vacation was chosen. Shinji, Issei, Office, and Rias went as the rest needed to keep the school from believing Shinji was a dropout. So, why here other than the open space? Shinji asked. It's the safest place to try something dumb like summon her to the corporeal world isolated from civilization. Office answered. So why bother then? Issei asked. Are you volunteering to take his place? Office asked right back, killing Issei's nerve. Well, Issei spoke, trying to think of a good enough excuse. Then shut up and watch. Office ordered, making Issei depressed, and Rias comfortingly pressed his face into her breasts as he hugged her. Office then made a red glowing glyph appear beneath Shinji, making his gauntlet grow to balance break size. A giant matching glyph then appeared in the sky, starting to materialize a white and black female dragon with 6 horns. Her horns gave off an air of royalty, with the top 2 horns circling to resemble a crown. For a dragon, she had a crazy nice figure. The dragon then unleashed a mighty roar, stretching. It kind of stings, Shinji groaned, putting his hand over the gemstone. Let me know immediately if it feels like your arm's breaking. Office ordered. Who dares call upon me? The Stardust Flame Dragon roared. That'd be me, Shinji replied nervously. Oh ho, so you face me now, coward. She roared angrily as she landed, standing, showing she stands on all 4s and was roughly the size of a 3-story building, the length of 10 school buses. She's a lot bigger than I imagined, Rias gasped. Greg? Issei asked. She likely gets her size from me, assuming, since I don't remember what her mother looks like. Drake answered. That's my soul you're talking about. Rias growled with a death stare. Sorry, Drake whimpered. Do you have a name other than Stardust Flame Dragon? Shinji asked. I am also called the Empress of Starlight Dragon. She boasted confidently. Self-proclaimed. Office snickered. Silence. Office roared furiously. Then your name will be Bahamut. An empress needs an impressive formal name, doesn't she? Shinji smiled. I admit that name does imply strength, but why should I take that name? She asked. It's a name denoting the most powerful of dragons, at least in my video games it does. Shinji explained. Then I shall accept it for now, puny man. Bahamut scoffed. You call him puny, but just his arm is enough to house a big girl like you. Office teased. Do not mock me. Bahamut roared. She's like a child, Issei commented. Office did say that she lacks social skills due to captivity. Rias smiled. Bahamut, would you be able to locate God Slayer for us? Shinji asked her. I could if I were unsealed. Bahamut spoke with a grin, narrowing her eyes. She's lying to try and take over you, but play along for now. Office whispered to Shinji. If we unsealed you, what would happen? Shinji asked, making an interested expression. You would have power unimaginable, none would be able to stand in your way, you would be unstoppable and could claim anything you wanted, God Slayer included. Bahamut answered with fervor. Oh yeah, she's definitely just trying to get the seal taken off. Rias whispered. Okay, I'm sold. Remove it. Shinji ordered. You can't be serious, Office exclaimed in shock when he flashed an odd-looking ceremonial dagger in his coat to her. It's fine, Office. I trust her. Shinji smiled reassuringly. Alright Bahamut, we're removing the seal on you. Office grinned. Excellent. The puny man knows true power when he sees it. Bahamut laughed. Shinji? Issei asked in a concerned tone. By my authority as Office, I hereby release my seal on the Stardust Flame Dragon. Office spoke, making the seal on Shinji's gauntlet shatter like glass. Yes. At last I am shrinking. What's going on? Bahamut pondered as she rapidly began growing smaller. She gazed at Shinji's gauntlet and saw him piercing the gemstone with a knife he showed off as letting out a black mist. Her widened and rage filled her. What are you doing to me? Bahamut roared. Limiting your power to what I can handle. This is the Knife of Solomon, a magic tool commonly used when young devils with boosted gear can't control their power yet. It sets up milestones in its power so they can only use so much of it until they master it. Shinji smiled. When Bahamut finished shrinking, she was knee-height to Shinji. She was crying waterfalls at how small she was now. How could she have fallen for a trick like that? You tricked me. Bahamut cried. No, I'm just making sure you don't overkill me with your power. There's nothing wrong with that. Shinji smiled. He had a plan, thank goodness. Rias sighed before passing out into Issei's arms as Shinji removed the knife from the gem without leaving a scratch. Rias, did she pass out from relief? Issei asked in confusion. I was shocked when he said to remove the seal as well. I didn't even know he had the Knife of Solomon, which is a rare enough object in of itself. Last I checked it was in heaven under heavy guard. How did you get it? Office asked. This angel lady gave it to me before we left and said it'd come in handy for what we were trying to do. It only worked because we summoned her to our plane of existence. Shinji answered with a confident smile. How dare you? Give me my immense size back. Bahamut roared, throwing a temper tantrum, flailing around on the ground. No. Shinji replied, and she tried to fry him with stardust fire, but it didn't even singe him. Wow, that really worked. Her power was severely limited. Shinji observed with amusement. That's because you stabbed me with your damned knife. Bahamut cried. She's adorable like this. Office giggled. Silence. I am the Empress of Starlight Dragon. Bahamut bawled. I think it's time you returned. Offa smiled, snapping her fingers, making a glyph appear, making Bahamut vanish and Shinji's gauntlet disappear. I think everyone will be relieved things went the way they did. Shinji smiled before suddenly covering his mouth, gagging a bit. Shinji? Issei asked nervously. Shinji gagged a few more times before vomiting blood, ejecting black chess pieces with a dragon motif onto the ground. He vomited a second time, sending more out. He looked very drained from it. Oh my, wait, where is the other half of the pawns? I only see 4. Office pointed out. Humming up, Shinji whimpered before again puking, sending the rest of the pieces to join their brethren. Brutal, thank God Rias is out cold for this, ow. Issei spoke, feeling the pain of saying the G word. They all have a dragon motif to them, how very interesting. Offa spoke as she picked up one of the pieces for a better look. My poor stomach, Shinji groaned. Serves you right, asshole. Bahamut's voice cried from his arm. Let's have Azazel examine them later. Offa spoke. In hell, Ginji was looking through tomes with Yuri in a library. Many of them were written in a demonic text. Ginji seldom ever looked this focused on something. You're sure you don't want to use the dragon method? Yuri asked him. These records hold the key to it. If Sephiroth really had it, then he had to have done something with it. I'm determined to find it to confirm if that rumor is true. Ginji answered without looking up from his current tome. A week passed after that, and it was Shinji's first day back from his illness, as Akeno managed to convince the headmaster he came down with. The twins entered the school grounds together, and the girls squealed with spurting nosebleeds, mostly over Ginji. Shinji was exhausted from pulling an all-nighter catching up on his assignments. Did Azazel ever get back to you about those pieces you coughed up? Ginji asked him. He's still experimenting apparently. Anyway, are you excited about getting your evil pieces tonight? I know you're going to reincarnate Yuri as your queen, Shinji grinned. One must keep his closest confidant at his side. Our relationship is unrelated to my reasons for making her my queen. Ginji scoffed, blushing a bit, making the girl's nosebleeds worse. It's 100% related, you closet pervert, Shinji thought to himself. The evening rolled around, and the Grimoires went to the manor located in hell for Ginji's ceremony. There were many high-profile devils there, some that Ginji was acquainted with, and some that were new. Shinji was mostly ignored, except by the devils that actually favored Shinji's less regal appearance. Why do I have to go on stage with him again? I'm not receiving anything, so it's practically public shaming. Shinji asked their birth mother. There's going to be a special announcement after he's presented his pieces. Rias answered with a smile. Interesting. Ginji smirked, and it was time to take the stage. Everyone, thank you for attending. We will now present our man of honor, my son, Ginji Grimoire. Rias announced, and they clapped as he stepped forward. Ginji, as of today having turned 18 years old along with his brother, is to be given his evil piece set to congratulate him on achieving the title of High Devil. Rias announced, making the crowd clap as she presents Ginji with a black box. Ginji opened the box and stared at his pieces for a good minute. He then smiled softly as he pulled the queen piece from the box. It caused a bit of commotion as he looked to the audience. Do you already have someone in mind? Rias asked him. Will Yuri me to please come on stage? Ginji asked without looking away from the crowd. When Yuri took the stage, she had her hair in a braided bun. She was dressed in a blue backless dress bearing the Grimoire insignia on the hip. It was very rare to see Yuri wearing makeup as well. Yuri, will you live for my sake and fight to defend my honor? Ginji asked, extending the queen piece toward her. To me, there would be no greater cause. Yuri answered, kneeling to him. At that moment, the Grimoire insignia appeared as a magic circle over her chest, allowing the piece to enter her body. Devil wings then quickly sprouted from her back. The crowd clapped with fervor as Ginji kissed Yuri on the lips. Ginji almost never showed public affection for Yuri, which meant with her in his peerage, he no longer has to hide it. Now, please welcome Azazel of the Fallen Angel Party to the microphone to make an announcement. Rias spoke before bowing, allowing the man himself on stage to a standing ovation, holding a platter with a cloth over it. Good evening, everyone. I wish to show you something that I've discovered with the help of Shinji Grimoire. Azazel spoke before removing the cloth, unveiling the dragon pieces, as a magic screen gave the audience a close-up. So that's what it was, Shinji sighed to himself. I've discovered dragon pieces like evil pieces, but they will not reincarnate the target as a devil, but as a dragon. I have tested it with numerous equipment and found that every weapon they've generated was dragonic in nature. These pieces will also only obey Shinji's command, as I tried to reincarnate subjects using them, but it rejected them every time. So I put it to you, should Shinji be allowed possession of these pieces despite his low title? My vote is aye. So what of you, denizens of hell? I want to hear your opinion. Azazel explained to them, causing a huge stir. The crowd was very lively discussing it. The reception was extremely mixed, making Shinji start to sweat. He wanted to be anywhere but there, but his legs refused to move. His throat felt like it was closing up, but he couldn't bring himself to get a drink. Was it anticipation of the answer being nay? Was it his fear of being shunned? In case you're wondering why it's such a big debate, law states that one must achieve high devil status before being allowed evil pieces. You made these though, so it's a conundrum for the ages. Do we obey devil law or do we allow you free use of them? Ginji told Shinji. But we have a decision. If you are for devil law, say I. Azazel spoke, and a large number called out. Well, it makes sense, Shinji thought to himself, shaking a bit, unconsciously shedding a tear. Those for allowing him to use them, say I. Azazel spoke, and an alarming number of the audience spoke, startling even Azazel. They approve. Shinji thought in disbelief. There you have it. Shinji shall be allowed full use of his dragon pieces. Thank you all for your input on this decision. Azazel smiled with a respectful bow. Why did you make a big spectacle of it? Rias asked. We don't truly know what they will do. So if anything bad happens, it won't be coming out of left field and we'll have contingency plans set up. Azazel smiled. It makes sense logically. Rias nodded. Meanwhile, in the human realm, a female angel with a heavily wounded wind was running for her life. Her pursuer was a man wearing a black robe with a hood hiding their face, wielding a bloody serrated knife. Strangely, her pursuer was taking a leisurely pace and keeping up with her. Please don't run, you're being used for a good cause. The man spoke in a calm tone of voice. The girl kept running, trying to lose him. To her horror, the man cut her off at a corner and stabbed her organs with the knife. She was frozen, only able to make sounds as he twisted the knife. We need bodies to make weapons with. Imagine how strong a weapon made with an angel would be. Don't you want to be part of this project? He asked as the girl lost consciousness. He removed his knife, lifted her over his shoulder, and began carrying her off. Rain began to pour as lightning flashed, showing his sadistic grin beneath the hood. It was a typical morning at school in Ginji and Shinji's classroom. The twins sit on opposite sides of the classroom in the same row. Shinji looked ready to fall asleep, and Ginji was getting his books ready for the homeroom. Today would be different, though the replacement for their previous teacher was being introduced. The headmaster entered the room when it was time for class, wearing a black suit as always. I'd like to introduce the replacement for the late Mrs. Parson, bless her for her years of tutelage in this school. Please welcome Miss Yuki Hashina. He spoke. The young woman that entered looked young enough to be fresh from high school. She wore her long dark brown hair folded up with a hairpin. She was dressed in black heels, a black business skirt, a white button-up blouse tucked neatly into her skirt, and gold earrings. Shinji was love-struck at first sight, blushing immediately, giving Ginji a feeling of dread. Greetings. This is my first year teaching at the high school level, so please bear with me if I sound a bit demeaning at times. Yuki smiled, bowing respectfully. An angel in human clothing, Shinji thought to himself. Here we go again, Ginji thought to himself with a soft groan. Class seemed to fly by as Shinji remained in La La Land. Ginji was almost hoping she called on him to make him look like an idiot. Fortunately for Shinji and unfortunately for Ginji, it never happened and lunch came around. Isn't Ms. Hashina red hot? Shinji asked with a stupid grin on his face. Shinji, remember 7th grade, this won't end well. Ginji warned him. We're in high school now though. Shinji stated. She's a teacher and you're a student, Shinji. She could lose her job, you know. Worse, she could also lose her teaching license. Ginji told him. At least let me try, Ginji. Shinji pouted. No, and if you try to go over my head, so help me, Ginji threatened. The day went by fast, and as Ginji expected, Shinji made a dead-on sprint for home. He had a bad feeling about it. Your teacher? Rias questioned after hearing Shinji's rant. Ginji won't even let me try. Shinji moped. I could see froling for a senpai, but your teacher? That's a touchy subject. She could lose her job even if she took pity on you, knowing it could never work out. Issei sighed. Does she already have a boyfriend? Kaneko asked while sipping some tea. I haven't investigated. Shinji answered nervously. I say go for it. It never hurts to try. Akeno smiled, putting her hands on his shoulders from behind. Akeno, he could get in serious trouble. Rias scolded her. Well, not much to lose, Issei shrugged with a sigh. Shinji went over all kinds of approaches in his head. Before he knew it, it was time for school once more. He decided that he'd try to casually ask her. His time came during lunch break until another male student stopped her first. Ms. Hashina, do you have a boyfriend? The male student asked, making Shinji's ear double in size to listen in. No, I'm single, but that really shouldn't be the concern of a student. She smiled warmly. I see, the boy student smiled, blushing a bit. Well, that was easier than I thought it'd be. Crap, act natural. Shinji panicked as she continued walking toward him. Shinji pretended to be reading a book, leaning on one of the support pillars. When she passed, his eyes widened in shock as she suddenly fell to her knees, holding her gut with an expression of sheer agony. A little blood began to drip from her mouth, scaring Shinji. "Ms. Hashina, are you okay?" Shinji asked her in a panic. An ambulance was called and she was away due to nothing physically being wrong that a school nurse could identify. At the hospital they couldn't find anything either. Shinji got the idea that maybe if it isn't physical, maybe it's magical. He then sought advice from his birth mother. She just suddenly collapsed. Rias asked for confirmation. "Yeah. She walked by me, then she just hit the floor," Shinji answered. "I hope she gets better soon." Issei spoke. "Ginji, let's take a mother-son trip." Rias smiled as she stood. "Where are we going?" Ginji asked. Rias took him to the hospital at an ungodly hour of night, to his shock. How the staff greeted her added voltage to his confusion, like they all knew who she was. They were shown immediately to Yuki's room where she was sleeping thanks to medicine. "The clipboard says it's an undetermined illness, but I know better." Rias spoke with a serious expression. What do you mean?" Shinji asked. "She possesses a cursed gear and tool commonly employed by high-rank fallen angels, which means that a fallen angel has used her as a weapon. Vault, the question is where that fallen angel is now," Rias explained. "Can we stop her pain?" Shinji asked. "Yes, but doing so will force her to become the wielder of the weapon inside of her. I have my informants here watching the heart monitor so we don't get caught doing this. If something happens, Shinji, I want you to reincarnate her." Rias smiled. "What?" Shinji exclaimed and she put her hand on his head. "Sometimes it can get very messy. The jewel that the weapons manifest in may not like the spell and force its true form out in self-defense. In most cases this will either fatally wound or near fatally harm the vault." "Did you bring your dragon pieces?" Rias asked him. "I always have them on me, like Dad suggested," Shinji replied, presenting a small case from inside his bag. "Good, then let's begin." Rias smiled, making a magic circle appear above Yuki. The circle began to rotate and send sparks into Yuki's body, causing her heart rate to start dramatically increasing. After 30 seconds she began to scream in agony as 10 golden clawed fingers pierced through the flesh of her torso from within. The fingers began moving as if trying to get free, making her puke blood, knocking her medical mask off. Her gargled screaming got louder as 2 large gauntlets, one white and one black, began to rend their way out of her body. Blood was all over the bed, walls, and floor as Yuki twitched, and the gauntlets pulled themselves from her shredded organs, falling onto the floor, wriggling like overturned beetles. "Oh my god," Shinji spoke, trying not to lose his dinner. "Now Shinji, before she completely fades," Rias commanded. "I am Shinji Gremory, and I invite you to continue to live because I have feelings for you." Shinji cried as he pulled out a random piece, causing the Gremory insignia to appear as the piece entered her body. When the circle vanished, Yuki's body has miraculously reconstructed itself. Rias then used a quick spell to force the gauntlets onto her arms, ceasing their wriggling. Rias then had Yuki checked out and taken to the Gremory residence and put to bed in a guest room after getting the blood washed off of her. After several hours, Yuki began to regain consciousness, finding herself dressed only in small pink lingerie. "What the?" she questioned, getting out of bed. She examined the room she was in and became even more confused. She looked in the mirror on the dresser and almost freaked when she saw the dragon-like emblem tattoo covering 3/4ths of her chest. She grabbed her head with both hands in a panic. "A tattoo? I swore to Mom I'd never get a tattoo. She's going to kill me." Yuki panicked when the gauntlet suddenly equipped to her, making numerous black belts weaved together up her arms, connecting to black leather shoulder pauldrons. "What's going on?" Yuki asked herself, trembling with fear. My, awake already?" Akeno asked her as she entered the room holding a change of clothes. "Who are you?" Yuki asked, taking a step back out of fear. Where are my manners? I am Akeno Gremory, wife of Issei Gremory. Well, one of many wives." She giggled, introducing herself. "What? Many wives?" Yuki exclaimed in shock. "Here, change into these and it'll all be explained in the living room." Aken smiled, handing the change of clothes to her. Yuki begrudgingly changed into the blue jeans and short-sleeved blue polo shirt she was given. Akeno then happily escorted her to the first-floor living room. The twins were there waiting for them. "The Gremory twins?" Yuki questioned. "I teach," Shinji nervously greeted her. "Shinji's the one who did it, so he can explain." Ginji sighed, turning the page of his book. "Well, you were slowly dying because of those gauntlets you're wearing now. I saved you by removing them and then reincarnating as a dragon-devil hybrid, kind of. I don't know how to accurately say it. What's for sure is basically your human life is over and I'm kind of your master," Shinji nervously explained to her. "What? I became a slave?" Yuki panicked. No, not like that. Basically your life is tied to mine now, so if I die," Shinji tried to simplify. "Oh, do I have to listen to whatever you say?" Yuki asked in a panic. I don't think I'm in a position to order my elder around. Even then, I'm not that kind of guy. Shinji answered. You haven't exactly given her a reason to trust you, Ginji stated. Shut up or get out. Shinji barked. So I'm a dragon devil thing and you, my student, are my source of life? Yuki asked, trying to wrap her head around the situation. Yeah. Shinji nodded. These gloves were inside me and causing those sudden bursts of feeling like something was trying to claw its way out of me? Yuki asked, staring at them. Also right. Shinji nodded. So I guess this is divine punishment by God for all those times I refused to go on dates with guys. Ow. Yuki exclaimed, holding her head in pain. That's the other thing, you can't speak of holy things or you get stung. Definitely don't say the G word. Shinji warned her. Okay, Yuki nodded, sniffling a bit from the pain. This is awkward for me too, you're my homeroom teacher. Shinji sighed. What will the school think? Yuki panicked. Mom's taking care of that. Shinji assured her. The woman with black hair? Yuki asked. That's Aunt Akeno. My mom is the head wife, Ria's Gremory. They're all technically mom, but it got too confusing, so I called my other mom's aunts instead. Aunt Kaneko, Aunt Akeno, Aunt Zenobia, Aunt Asia, and I've got a few other aunts too. Shinji explained. I thought polygamy was illegal. Yuki asked in a state of confusion. Not among devils. Some even have as many as 30 or more wives. Shinji answered. How am I going to explain this to my sister? Because of me going to the hospital I had to call off on our plan. I agreed to go to Karak with her that night. Yuki panicked. You're not trapped here, you know. Shinji spoke, snapping her out of it. Eh? Was all she could say. You can continue living at your house, going about your life as normal, just follow the devil rules, and you'll be fine. Shinji assured her. The door of the room then flew open as the half-dressed triplets flew through the air, tackling Shinji. Kaneko then hurried in and began to pry them off. Yuki had absolutely no words for the display. Sorry they got a lucky shot at my eye. Kaneko told them. It's fine, I know how they hate bath time. Shinji chuckled. I'll help bathe the little troublemakers. Shinji, you take good care of her. Ginji spoke as he lifted Ami so Kaneko could easily lift the other two. You make it sound dirty. Shinji commented as the triplets were carried off. The following day at school, both were uneasy. It was like both were heavily drained of energy. I'm not sure what to say, I bet she hates me now, Shinji thought to himself. My sister is going to kill me for standing her up, Yuki thought to herself. Lunch came around and Shinji could barely eat. Ginji then grabbed him by the blazer collar, lifting him, causing him to pose like a puppy held by the scruff. Ginji then carried him to the roof and plopped him down by Yuki. Now talk to each other. Ginji ordered before stomping off in agitation. Willer, Shinji trying to fish for words. It's awkward to say but I don't mind. Yuki told him. Huh? Shinji asked in disbelief. You saved my life, you know. Ever since I was little I thought that those claws were a weak constitution that got worse as I got older. Yuki explained to him. Since you were little? Shinji asked. Yes. I thought maybe being a teacher will be an easier job than what I originally planned on doing. When I was little I wanted to be like my mother. She was strong, kind, benevolent, forgiving, and most of all loving to all, regardless of who they were. She told me when I was about 5, Yuki, if you want to be like me, devote yourself to the 2 rings. That was impossible to ask of me at the time, but now I feel like I've been given a second chance. Yuki explained to him. What did she mean by 2 rings? Shinji asked. One is the ring that my husband will wear once I'm married, the other the ring used in the sport of wrestling. My mother was at the top of her game until a drunk driver caused her to give up her career. Yuki replied. She? Shinji asked, getting depressed. No, she's alive. She's just missing half of her legs is all. The car took them clean off, but her injuries were only so severe because she protected me from getting hurt as well. She walks with prosthetics, so all she can do is manage her friends from ringside. Yuki told him. I'm glad she's alive at least. Shinji sighed with relief. I am too. Shinji? Yuki spoke. Yes. Shinji replied. I've noticed you ogling me in class well since the day I started working here anyway. Yuki told him. Sorry, Shinji sighed, blushing a bit. I know you can't help it. A lot of the boys stare at me undressing me, but your eyes they send a chill down my spine, like you'd actually attempt something. Yuki confessed to him. Eyes of a devil, sorry, Shinji nervously chuckled. I'd lose my job if I even pitied you with one date. Yuki told him. I hate it when Ginji is right, Shinji thought to himself. Your mother said you're looking for a god slayer. I once heard my father talk about it. He said that it held unfathomable power, and someone named Sephiroth used a forbidden magic to hide it away because he feared it would cleave this very earth in two. I guess he's one of your family members. Yuki told him. Sephiroth Gremory, nobody really knows much about him anymore, other than the fact he was betrayed by his own peerage, according to the records on him. Shinji explained. After school, Shinji couldn't stop thinking about Yuki. Once he was on the path up to the manor, Yuri leapt out wielding a katana. On reflex, Shinji summoned Bahamut's gauntlet to stop her blade cold in its tracks. She had eyes with murderous intent. "Sorry, thought you were someone else," Yuri stated. "You say that every time. Seriously, what's your beef with me?" Shinji asked nervously. As usual, she sheathed her katana and walked off like nothing happened. This was a habitual thing too, but she never explained herself. "Damn it," Shinji growled, continuing on his way. He reached the doors of the manor, but when he grabbed the handle, a scarlet domain stopped him from opening the door. It wouldn't budge no matter how hard he pushed. "What the hell?" Shinji questioned. He felt the hair on the back of his neck stand up and turned around. Standing there was a slim yet muscular man with very long crimson hair bearing a goatee. He wore black boots, slightly baggy black pants tucked into his boots, using several belts to hold them up, a red blouse with a black vest over it, a black twin-tail overcoat, black fingerless gloves, and an eye patch over his left eye. At his side was a decorated one-handed sword bearing gold, blue, and red colors with rubies inlet into the guard. Are you a relative of mine?" Shinji asked nervously. "I am your ancestor, Sephiroth Gremory." He introduced himself. "You're long dead, aren't you? Your peerage turned on you?" Shinji exclaimed in shock. "Is that the story my peerage came up with? So they carried the secret to their graves. I'll pay proper respects later. What matters now is that you heed my words," Sephiroth told Shinji. "What? Are you going to tell me where God's Slayer is?" Shinji joked. "Yeah, right. Life isn't a manga where plot convenience kicks in when you need it," Shinji thought to himself. "Forget about that blade. It will only bring ruin. Now to what my actual warning is. You are not the only reincarnated dragon and you do not want to meet the other. It will cause something in you to awaken that is beyond even my ability to control," Sephiroth warned him. "What does that mean?" Shinji asked him. "What was one split in two when the seal was placed, causing the birthright to be forgotten, but should black and white clash, the nightmare will reform and Armageddon shall come about the three lands," Sephiroth answered in a serious tone. "What? You aren't making much sense," Shinji told him. "I cannot prevent your initial encounter, but do everything in your power to keep from fighting, and whatever you do, do not attempt using your boosted gear against her," Sephiroth told him before vanishing along with his domain. "I think I need to tell mom and dad about this," Shinji spoke nervously. Luckily for him, Rias and Issei were in the living room with Asia having tea. Shinji explained the entire encounter to them. He hoped for some good advice. How unnerving, Asia spoke. "I thought I felt your presence vanish for a few minutes, but then you were back where you were. I even checked, and you were nowhere to be seen," Rias pointed out. "Dragons, only one other person has a dragon, but his is white unless," Issei spoke, trailing off in thought. "I don't like what you're implying," Issei Drake spoke. "Something tells me Vali finally put a plan in motion for getting back at me for his countless failures to destroy me," Issei sighed. On the outskirts of town, a girl of high school age bearing short spiky silver hair with a scar around her neck rode a motorcycle over the hill overlooking it. She wore black Converse, blue jeans, a red short-sleeved V-neck shirt, and dragon-themed earrings. With an icy stare she looked at the town. "You've been training for this your whole life." Knowing Issei, he hasn't trained his son one bit and has been more focused on his harem. "Don't screw this up because nobody in hell or heaven will let you live it down if you lose to the son of the boob dragon with the amount of training you've gone through." Vali's voice echoed in her head. "I won't fail you, father," she growled. After school one warm afternoon, Shinji was staring at the sky with a tired look. It was desperation. He'd written the letter in a rush of insanity. Ms. Hashina being late told him that she wasn't coming. "I should have guessed," he sighed when a paper airplane ran into the side of his head. "Is it from Ms. Hashina?" Shinji wondered as he lifted it, folded it, and then began to read it. As he read it, his expression went from worried to horrified. He dropped the letter hurrying from the school. He ran as fast as he could to the underside of a bridge. Yuki was unconscious and tied to a chair, bleeding from her lip as well as a head wound. "Ms. Hashina? Are you okay? Who did this to you?" he asked, trying to shake her awake. "I did." A girl's voice spoke as the girl from before who was at the edge of town came into view. "Who are you? Why did you do this?" Shinji demanded to know, getting in front of Yuki defensively. "I didn't want anyone outside of our circle to be caught in the crossfire. It didn't take an expert to see that you were lusting for your teacher, so here we are," she explained with a confident smirk. "That doesn't answer who you are," Shinji pointed out. "I am Maria Lucifer, wielder of the god of space-time dragon," she introduced herself. "You're who he talked about. I walked right into your palm," Shinji growled, summoning Bahamut. "I'm going to make this quick and simple, Shinji. I'm going to kill you, and then I'll be gone like the wind," Maria snickered. Shinji, I'm seeing through my gemstone. This is very bad. The god of space-time dragon is not to be taken lightly. He has that title for a reason. Bahamut warned Shinji. Is he self-proclaimed like you are? Shinji asked. Shut up or I won't help you. Bahamut barked. Hein, geez, don't gotta yell, Shinji sighed. Sacred gear, activate dragon earrings. Maria spoke, leaping at him. Say what now? Shinji spoke with headlight eyes. Her earrings shone with a bright light, and a black breastplate bearing gold lining accompanied by matching clawed gauntlets materialized upon her. Shinji narrowly dodged in time despite her claws, leaving a large rip in his shirt along with slight scratches. He backflipped, kicking her jaw to put some distance between them. I can't use you on her, it could end the world, Shinji thought to himself, trying to think of a plan. So you're just gonna die. You know that if you die then Yuki also dies, right? Bahamut spoke and Shinji's eyes got wide as he punched Maria in the face, knocking her flying with a single hit. She'll what? Shinji exclaimed. You seriously forgot? Bahamut sighed in agitation. I won't let that happen, no way. Shinji roared. Boost. Bahamut spoke. Now you fight back with a typical inherited gear, too pathetic. Maria scoffed, appearing mostly unharmed. Boost. I won't let her die because I'm superstitious about a warning, Shinji growled, taking a fighting stance. Boost. Boost. Charge 50% complete. HMPH. A quad critical won't help you. Mode 2, activate. Maria spoke, causing her gauntlets to become larger as greaves bearing talons appeared to accompany them. Their movements were even faster now. Shinji couldn't keep up, taking injuries left and right. This was why he was warned, wasn't it? Boost. Damn it, hit. Shinji roared, slamming his gauntlet into Maria's face, causing everything to go into slow motion as the glove expanded a bit, making an eerie red light shine from inside the vein-like openings. Explosion. His gauntlet then unleashed a powerful shockwave into Maria, sending her flying to a wall, making a giant crater in it. She coughed up blood as the gauntlet returned to normal. Charge reset. Boost. Damn it, let my guard down, Maria growled, trying not to focus on her nosebleed. How do you like that? Shinji scoffed as Bahamut began to expand up his arm without him noticing. No playing around then. Drop the bullshit, Belmont. Maria ordered. As you wish. A deep male voice spoke, and Maria's earrings began glowing red as her breastplate expanded into full-body draconic armor, connecting to her gauntlets and greaves, leaving her face exposed despite protecting her jawbone. You're dead now, Gremory. Maria smirked. She moved like a blur, attacking Shinji rapidly. Bahamut kept building a charge, but it looked like Shinji had no opportunity to counter. Shinji wanted desperately to break through. Bahamut, can't you do something about her speed? Shinji asked Bahamut telepathically. On it. Bahamut responded. Eruption. Bahamut cried as her veins opened again when Maria slowed down for an uppercut. The gauntlet then unleashed a powerful kinetic wave, knocking Maria and everything in a 5-meter radius of Shinji flying. Shinji landed, finally able to catch his breath despite puking a bit. Maria didn't seem too harmed, but was evidently pissed off. Again with that parlor trick, that won't save you from this. Maria howled furiously as her right gauntlet became a cannon with a dragon head barrel charging up with a golden energy. Crap, I can barely move, Shinji thought to himself. All I can do is keep raising a charge. Bahamut told him. I'll get both of you at once, so you don't have to watch her writhe in pain as you die. Maria laughed, suddenly aiming at Yuki. Yuki, Shinji gasped, stumbling toward her. Do you want to die? Bahamut exclaimed in horror. Distortion cannon fire. Maria laughed hysterically, unleashing a colossal golden energy beam, causing a massive explosion. Rubble completely covered the two. Maria waited a few seconds and then continued to laugh. I do not sense the Empress of Starlight anymore. Belmont told her. Mission accomplished. He got some lucky hits, but not a challenge at all. Maria snickered with a huge grin on her face. Wait, what's this aura I sense? It isn't the Empress, but it's still so frightening, Belmont told her. He took it dead on, he should be dead, right? Maria asked him. The rubble then began to shift to her shock. Under them were massive pure white wings with golden accents seemingly made of metal. The wings then suddenly unfolded, sending the rubble flying with a powerful gust of wind, almost knocking Maria over. Shinji was then revealed to be covered in his balance break armor, but something was definitely off. Red light was shining from the eye sockets, and the gem in the middle of the chest was pitch black with a red tint. Some parts of the armor were blood red as well, with black markings. He had Yuki freed of the chair beneath his chest, completely safe from harm. It's not possible, Maria gasped in horror. Protect, must protect, Shinji spoke in a heavily flanged voice. Through force of will he summoned his Juggernaut Drive. No, I'd still be sensing the Empress of Starlight Dragon if it were simply that, Belmont spoke in a fearful tone. Protect Yuki, Shinji spoke gently, setting her down as the base of his armor turned crimson red. Max boost, a deep female voice spoke. No, it can't be. Belmont gasped. Maria blurred, attacking him from every angle, but he wasn't budging. He wasn't taking a scratch from her either. Maria started to panic, even trying for a nut shot, but got no response. Master, we must flee. We won't win this fight. Belmont cried. Shinji then bit straight through her armor and into her shoulder, making her cry out in agony as blood flew into the air. Shinji flicked his neck, tossing her high into the air as black flames began forming in his mouth. He then began charging it up for a beam attack. How is his armor doing that? Maria exclaimed in horror. He isn't in control. We must flee before it is too late. Belmont begged of her. Damnation flames. Shinji and the dark voice roared, unleashing the flames at her. Maria barely dodged it, but the blast managed to severely damage her left arm, making her yell in agony. She fled crying as she cradled her heavily burned arm. She made sure to move so fast he couldn't possibly follow her. Protect, protect, Shinji repeated endlessly as he slowly walked toward Yuki. Parts of his armor began cracking and falling off as he approached her. She began coming to when most of him was visible again. He fell into her arms when it was just him and Bahamut again. Shinji. Shinji, Yuki spoke in a panic, trying to revive him. She hurried to carry him back to Gremory Manor. He was immediately taken to his room for Asia to appraise. She had to strip him to his boxers for a full basis of his wounds. His wounds were severe, but I was able to heal the vast majority with ease. Akeno had to remove the excess power coming out of Bahamut's sacred gear though, and it seems that Bahamut's limit rose further than Shinji could handle, but it's normalized now. Asia told them as she closed Shinji's door. Thank goodness. Rias sighed with relief. So Vali really did have a daughter for the sole purpose of challenging him. Issei sighed with agitation, crossing his arms. What do we do? What if she attacks him again? Zenobia asked. She knew exactly how to lead Shinji out too. Speaking of Ms. Hashina, how is she? Rias asked. I treated her injuries, but she refuses to leave Shinji's bedside. Apparently she had something important to talk with him about. Asia replied. I see. Better give them privacy then. Issei nodded. In Shinji's room he was sound asleep and Yuki was on her knees staring at his sleeping face. Her eyes were red from crying. A storm of emotions were swirling in her head. You deny yourself your own feelings. Bahamut spoke telepathically. Who's there? Yuki asked. I am Bahamut, Shinji's power you could say. Bahamut introduced herself. Well, Bahamut, I'm a teacher and he's a student. I'm also 6 years older than him, he's 16 and I'm 22. Yuki vented. I've been through his memories. Shinji has apparently always liked his women older than him, but only within a certain margin. You fit that scale to a T, Bahamut informed her. I still, Yuki sighed with frustration. Evidently the school is owned by devils now. It was when Shinji entered middle school that this occurred. I'm sure it'd be overlooked as you are part of his peerage. Bahamut reasoned. I'm sure even devils have moral standards. Yuki sighed. I may be but a child, but even I know that there have been stranger devil couples. Devils live a long time as well, and dragons even longer. You are technically a dragon, as it was a dragon piece that reincarnated you and not an evil piece. You'll find that dragons have rather loose standards between mates. As long as both sides consent, then it is fine. You can simply declare dragon law on them. Bahamut continued to reason. Still, Yuki sighed as her phone went off, making her check who it is. Who is that? Bahamut asked. I have to take this, sorry. Yuki spoke, exiting the room, leaning on the wall as she answered it. Hey Yuki. A voice on the other side spoke. Hi sis. Yuki smiled, responding. Where have you been? A grown woman's voice yelled, almost making her drop her phone. I know I stood you up again, but I was attacked by the psycho. One of my students risked his life to save me and I don't want to leave him alone right now. Yuki told the person on the other side. I'm not technically lying, she thought to herself. Yeah, turns out mom was in town and wanted to see you. So when you stood me up you also kinda sorta stood up mom. The younger woman spoke. Mom was going to be there. Crap, why didn't you tell me? Oh, and also, stop sending me links to dating sites. Yuki scolded her. Not like you have guys lined up. We'll cook for you tonight, so be ready to eat. The younger woman laughed. What? No, you don't have to do that. I'm sure I'll be able to meet up tomorrow so you don't have to cook for me tonight. Yuki told her. Too late, your landlord let us in. She giggled. You're already there? I'll be right there, Yuki sighed. Great. See you in a bit. Love you. She laughed. Love you too, bye, she sighed, hanging up. I don't want to leave right now, but Yuki thought to herself with a conflicted expression. I'll watch him. Family is important. Asia reassured her as she approached. Thank you, Mrs. Gremory. Yuki nodded. Yuki hurried to get back to her apartment complex. Waiting inside was her sister, a woman older than her with long brown hair. Sitting by her was her mother, an even older muscular woman with short graying bobbed brown hair bearing half-prosthetic legs. Yuki was glad to see her sister and mother after so long. "Welcome home, Yuki." Her mother smiled warmly. "Mom, Tomo." Yuki smiled, hugging them both. "You left your door unlocked again, so the landlord just had to give us the okay," Tomo pointed out. "Oops." Yuki nervously chuckled as she sat down and her mother then got her in a headlock. "So tell me about this student who saved you. Was he cute?" Her mother asked while giving her a noogie. "Mom, he's my student, not a love candidate." Yuki laughed despite cringing, managing to get free. "Come on Yuki, remember how you drool over the middle school kids? You always were a cradle robber." Tomo teased her. "I was not. I didn't drool either. I was thinking about what it'd be like to have a little brother." Yuki adamantly denied the claim. "That's how it all starts." Tomo snickered. "I will hurt you," Yuki growled. Girls, stop bickering." "Yuki, you haven't had those stomach pains in a while, have you?" Her mother pointed out. "Crap, I forgot that they're totally in the black." Yuki panicked in her thoughts. "Yeah, it's like they stopped altogether." Yuki smiled. "The Gremory family was involved, right?" Tomo spoke with a suddenly serious tone. "Huh?" Yuki replied in confusion. "Yuki, did we ever tell you what the family business is?" Tomo asked, drawing an oddly shaped knife from her coat that then extended into a sword with an angel motif. "Something tells me that I don't want to know," Yuki nervously replied. "We're exorcists. We hunt and kill devils," Tomo told her. "We want to know whether or not you're a devil, Yuki." Her mother spoke, drawing an angelic handgun from her coat. I'm not a devil, I'm a dragon. Yes, I was reincarnated as a dragon, not a devil. I can say God, see?" Yuki tried to convince them. "Ow, ow, ow, ow," Yuki whimpered in her thoughts. "Yuki, you have the strength of a rook, neither of us has the strength to break one of mother's headlocks of our own strength," Tomo pointed out. "Shit," Yuki thought in a panic. She leapt through the window, narrowly dodging her mother opening fire on her. Yuki began running full speed despite being barefoot. Her mother continued opening fire after her, scraping her now and then. Yuki started crying as she ran. "I can't believe this, my own family trying to kill me. I need to get out of here, I need to escape, but it isn't like I can fly," Yuki thought to herself, crying more. "You can," Bahamut told her telepathically. "You again?" Yuki gasped. "You are a dragon of his peerage. Spread your wings and fly to safety," Bahamut ordered. Yuki focused for a minute, and large dragon wings bearing brown scales burst from her back, allowing her to take off just as Tomo caught up, narrowly missing her with a sword throw. Her mother ran out of ammo as Yuki soared off into the night sky. "Shit, she got away," Tomo growled. Yuki arrived at the Gremory Manor almost incapable of words through her tears and hiccuping, but Rias understood well enough what had happened from Asia's report. Yuki fell to her knees at Shinji's bedside, continuing to bawl her eyes out. The only comfort Asia could provide was soothingly rubbing her back. "I can only imagine how heartbreaking that was and how frightening it must have been," Asia told her. Why did living have to cost me my family?" She managed to get out. Shinji shed a tear as his hand moved to take hers. Asia was astounded by his sense of awareness. It seemed to help Yuki to hold on to it. "Shinji, has he started coming to?" Asia pondered. Shinji's eyes flew open, appearing to be those of a dragon spooking Asia. He blinked and they returned to normal though. Shinji then turned to look at Yuki. "Ms. Hashina, I'm sorry, it's my fault," Shinji told her. "I don't blame you, I'd be dead if you hadn't, but at the same time," she sniffled as Rias entered the room. "If your biological family rejects you, you must find another who will love you. As long as you don't make Shinji cry, I will allow you to date," Rias told her. "It isn't like she has anywhere else to go," Rias Asia stated. "I'm just saying the atmosphere can get full of tension at times. We have many facilities to relieve stress, but there are times when there's nothing better than some loving," Rias stated in an almost intoxicated voice. "What?" Yuki asked, blushing. "Rias, sorry, looks like she just got out of a massage session with Issei. She's always a little loopy after that with how much stress it relieves. She'll be rational again after a few hours." Asia smiled, explaining it to her when Rias hooked Asia's arm. "Your turn, Asia, you'll soar to heaven when he gets your joins," Rias smiled. I need to make sure Shinji recovers okay," Asia told her. "Come on, you need it the most of all of us as the family healer. He's got his teacher to look after him." Rias grinned before starting to drag her away. Wait, Asia pleaded. "Your family is certainly lively," Yuki sniffled. "Dad's really good at massages, and to be honest, my mom can't get enough of them. She has to deal with a lot of paperwork, and me continuously getting beat up isn't helping her any," Shinji explained to her. "You saved me back there, I'm not sure what you did, but thank you." Yuki smiled, sniffling a little more. I wanted to protect you so bad I blacked out at a point, to be honest. That was when I woke up here. Shinji told her. I for your letter in my locker. I was on my way to the roof when someone tased me at the door to the teacher's lounge. Yuki explained to him. I was going to ask if you wouldn't mind a secret relationship. During school hours we're strictly teacher and student, but after school Shinji sighed with a pitiful look. Rest, Shinji. We can talk about this when you're fully recovered. I don't have anywhere to go either, so I'll definitely be around. I don't have any other clothes than these on me. Yuki spoke with a dawn of realization. In an apartment, Maria was applying medicine to her badly burned arm. The flames had gone through her armor and partially roasted her skin. The medicine she was applying was healing it in real time, but with heavy difficulty. I said that we should have fled, but did you listen? No. Belmont scolded her. What the hell was that anyway? Maria asked as she popped the cork of a second medicine bottle. I heard a rumor regarding the Empress of Starlight Dragon that she's actually half of a much deadlier dragon. What burned your arm must have been the other half surfacing because his life was in danger. Belmont speculated. I'll get him back for this, I'll make him pay, Maria growled as she continued to apply the medicine. I have a theoretical plan for how you could do that if you're willing to temporarily put your pride away. Belmont told her. If you say what I think you're going to say, Maria growled with her eyes becoming like a dragon's. Attempt to seduce and assassinate tactic. Belmont spoke, making her growl like a real dragon. I am going to come in there and rip you apart, Maria threatened him. It is only a suggestion. I'm not saying go all the way, just get him to trust you enough to let his guard down and when he least expects it, rip his heart from his chest. Belmont attempted to reason with him. Still, the thought of so much as being friendly with him is revolting, she shivered. You just don't have social skills. Belmont scoffed. I really will hurt you. She threatened. End of the here. So that's it for today's video guys. Before you go, just like the video and share it with your friends. Bye.